And good evening, good afternoon, good morning from wherever you are watching this podcast from here in the Philippines and from all over the world. And welcome to my podcast, the RJ Ledesma Podcast. In my podcast, what I like to do is I like to speak with the country's pioneering business personalities and cutting edge entrepreneurs to learn more about how they think about doing business. What are their success secrets? What are their best practices? Can we emulate those best practices in our own businesses? How have they innovated their businesses during this pandemic? And what opportunities, more importantly, do they see emerging in this new normal? Now, is there a business personality or entrepreneur that you would like me to interview here on the podcast? Please let me know. I would love to learn from them. Just drop me a message. We're also live right now on Kumu and on YouTube. Tonight, I have the founder and CEO of GoTyme Bank. GoTyme Bank is a bank regulated by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and is a joint venture of Tyme, that's TYME, a multi-country digital banking group with members of the GoTyme group of companies, particularly Robinsons Bank, Robinsons Land Corporation, and Robinsons Retail Holdings. GoTyme Bank aims to unlock its customers' financial potential with the convenience and security of digital banking. They will tell us more about that as we speak to the founder. Please welcome here on the show, Mr. Nate Clarke. Nate, I'm so happy to finally have you here on the show, Nate.
Thank you so much, RJ. It's great to be here.
Nate, again, thanks so much for joining us. And let's cut to the chase and discuss a bit more about GoBank. Now, just in fairly recent banking history, there were only 6 digital banking licenses that were issued here in the Philippines, and of course, very fortuitous that the bank was one of them. Can I just ask from your perspective here right now, what exactly is GoBank, and what pain point are you trying to address with GoTyme Bank?
Yeah, so I think, maybe just tell a bit of a story that I think answers best why GoTyme Bank exists. Sorry, RJ. I don't know if it's my side, but it's breaking up.
Yeah.
Have I caught up with you or not?
Well, here, no problem.
All right, kind of Murphy's Law here. Our test was good, but now we have the connections failing.
And just double checking, is everything clear with me over here?
I can hear you.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, no worries. Now, let's go back to our discussion. I hope you don't mind. I asked earlier pain points, and this is one of the pain points here right now of actually doing this live, doing a live podcast. But rather, I wanted to go back to the idea of GoTyme Bank. Like I said, there are 6 digital licenses that were extended here in the Philippines. GoTyme was fortunate enough to be one of those who were chosen to be one of the banks that got a digital license. But what exactly is the pain point in general that digital banks are trying to address, and in particular that GoTyme is addressing that maybe the other digital banks aren't addressing at this point?
Okay. Yeah. So the taking a step back, if I even maybe tell a story about the early days of GoTyme, we were sitting with our brand agency and really trying to get to the heart of what does our brand stand for. And there's a particular exercise they all had us do that sticks with me. And that they had us write it on a little piece of paper, what is your brand at war with? And the reason for, they said that all the best brands in the world, the Nikes, the Apples, are at war with something. So for example, Apple is at war with frustration, and they solve that through a beautiful experience. Nike is at war with kind of not moving, being sedentary, and they solve that with motivating you to move and compete. And kind of what came up clearly for all of us, all the founding team, is we are at war with unmet potential. And more specifically, we're at war with unmet financial potential. So maybe what do we mean by unmet potential? I think, Philippines, big basketball nation, me coming from the US, so kind of, it's the number one pick. It's the Kwame Brown or the Greg Odens who doesn't pan out, right? But I think if you translate that to the financial world, I think, unfortunately, a place where I've spent a lot of time in South Africa or here in the Philippines, there's just massive unmet financial potential. It's like all of the raw talent, like millions of, hundreds of thousands of smart people graduating from college, university every year here in the Philippines. But there's not access to affordable credit. Less than 3% of the country has access to affordable credit. Less than 3% of the country has access to affordable insurance. Less than 3% of the country has access to high yield savings. And this compounds over their lifetime, that they are unable to meet their potential. They have the earning power or the wealth building power of many people that grow up in the US or Europe, but they're unable to unleash that potential.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry. I got unmet financial potential. I'm right here. Don't worry. No worries.
Okay. All right. I just don't know where
Hi,
I
Nate.
lost you, because I kept on talking.
No. We're talking about all the different unmet financial potentials here in the country. You said you were talking about the different percentages that you're seeing right now. It's Murphy's law. It's Murphy's law at work here today, Nate. The stars are not aligned. All the different we're seeing, and that's why you thought that it would be a great idea to come up with a digital. Just double checking on the signal.
Yeah, I'm just worried it's going to lose it again. I don't know if it's Can you hear me, RJ?
Yep, I can hear you now. Sorry, guys, that one. The perils of staying at home and having using Nate.
I keep on losing you. Yes, we'll wait for RJ to come back.
The signal should be steady now. There we go. Nate, I'm really sorry about the signal. Can you pick me up now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Let's redo this over and let's start again from the first question. I hope you don't mind. We're gonna go back. So this the beauty of putting this on our Spotify, Google, Apple podcast, that people can actually just hear the portion of the conversation moving on from here. But then, yeah, I'm really interested to find out again. Like I said earlier on, that initial pain point that you said that digital banks address, particularly here in developing countries, because I know that
Yeah.
it's got a different, digital banks have a different, I guess, context in more developed countries. And at the same time, what makes GoTyme Bank a bit different from the other digital banks which acquired licenses here in the Philippines? And I know there are only 6 of you guys. So let's start off with what the pain points first that you discovered for putting up a digital bank.
Yeah. So I think the pain points in the Philippines, like many emerging markets, I think the heart of it is that the current incumbents, the financial service providers, and banks, digital lenders, et cetera, actually don't meet the requirements to really let people maximize their personal financial potential. So they're kind of and there's just such pent up demand for that. So in the big use cases we talk about, I think taking a step back, the fintechs have done a great job, the e-wallets here, Gcash, PayMaya, of getting quite wide adoption of payments. But when we talk about real meaningful, I would say, like the next level of financial inclusion and allowing people to maximize their financial potential, you get into credit, so affordable credit. Instead of, and right now in the opportunity here in the Philippines, for example, is that the going rate on a digital lender or informal lenders 6 to 10% per month, or even more, right?
Wow, that's crazy, right?
And the reason for that is only roughly 3% of the population has affordable consumer credit from a bank in the form of like a credit card. Very similar story when it comes to insurance. Kind of less than 3% of the population is formally insured, and then the same, maybe even more, like 2% of the population has access to like high yield investments, such as being able to trade stocks or bonds, etc. So there's a massive opportunity to empower kind of actually all segments of the population to maximize their financial potential, like any other kind of smart, young, old person would in other parts of the world. Just they don't have that ability here.
And having said that, so this is the notion. It's really developing banks which call for financial inclusion, and it's strangely enough, it's not being done through a traditional means, but rather through a digital means. Why is it easier to do financial inclusion digitally than it would have been over the years? I guess it would be manually.
Yeah, I think the big thing is just the rapid adoption of mobile technology, right? In Philippines, as you know better than me, one of the world leaders in that as far as use of internet through phones, social media apps, etc. So that's kind of opened up the opportunity. But maybe back to the second part of your first question, how are we different? We actually take quite a different approach opposed to other digital banks in fintechs, in that we don't believe in particular in emerging markets, probably different in the developed markets, that you can do a scaled banking play, new bank play that actually gives access to the huge underserved populations, both, by the way, at the high end and the middle and lower end of the economy, without a physical presence and a human touch. We feel there's you need a bridge before you could be what you call a pure digital bank. So we're kind of the outlier of the new banks in town. We're the one that has a hybrid model of physical and digital distribution.
So how exactly does it work for me? So you will have a physical outlet or a brick and mortar branch for GoTyme?
No, so I'll bring this to life a bit more. So what we do is we integrate into physical retail ecosystems. So to kind of bring that to life right now in the Philippines. By the way, today is just looked at the date. It's our 6-month anniversary from launch.
Congratulations!
So actually now. So if you walk into a Robinsons supermarket, a marketplace, a Shopwise, right, you will be greeted by a smiling GoTyme Bank ambassador with our a beautiful bright blue shirt. They will kind of explain to you the benefits of GoTyme Bank. They'll usher you over to our kiosk. It looks a bit like a futuristic ATM. There's no cash management. What that kiosk does is allows you to open up a full bank account in under 5 minutes. And included under that 5 minutes, we issue you a Visa debit card in real time with your name on it. Then, and that debit card also, by the way, is attached to the Go Rewards loyalty program. And then in that store, that same supermarket, Robinsons supermarket, you can go to any of the till points, the cashiers, and you can do deposits and withdrawals for free. So we're effectively, so on one end of the spectrum, if you're a Gen Zer, only want to interact digital with us, you can do that. You can download our app, sign up on the phone. But if you're someone who just walking into the shop, either haven't heard of us, or you're uncomfortable with a pure digital play, we'll actually get your account opened, give you a card, and then you essentially have, I would call, the benefits of branch banking: physical presence, cash in, cash out, but also the advantages of digital.
So technically, with Robinsons as your partners, any Robinson's outlet, if it's a Robinson's bank, or I guess it's a Robinson's supermarket, or even a department store or mall, they will have GoTyme as the physical space for it. Is that right?
Yes. We're not right now. We're in 200 locations nationwide with a kiosk,
Wow.
and 900 locations with deposit withdrawal. If you fast forward 4 or 5 months from now, we're going to have over 400 kiosk locations, and then thousands of deposit withdrawal points.
And that's because really of the definition of what you mean by sort of like a physical digital bank, a hybrid
Yeah.
digital bank, that you're able to create 200 locations in just about 6 months.
Yeah, it was just we essentially turn over, and this is a very similar model to we deployed in South Africa. In South Africa, for example, we've got about 1,500 locations through retail partners, mostly supermarket, and we find fashion and department stores work well for this model. And yeah, in South Africa, that's given us almost 7 million customers in 4 years, and so far we're off to a better start here in the Philippines.
Wow, really great to hear that the things are that the things are auguring well here in the country. Again, for those who want to be able to check out GoTyme and open up an account with GoTyme, you can also visit their website. Mix, can we flash their website on screen here right now? That's
Cool. Thank you.
www.gotyme gotyme.com.ph. Again, that's GoTyme, GOTYME.com.ph. So just a question over here. For those who are just listening to us, do they just go to the site and they can actually open online, or do they have to go to a Robinson's location to open up a GoTyme account?
Yeah, so actually we'll direct everyone. You go to the Google Play Store for Android users, or for the Apple iStore for Apple users. Just search GoTyme in the App Store, download the app, and then you can open it right on the app. It takes 5 minutes. You just need one valid form of ID. We use facial recognition technology along with that ID to open the account. So you can actually do that in the comfort of your home. To get your free debit card, though, you go to the kiosk, or you can do the entire thing at the kiosk in any of the Robinson stores.
And is there a minimum balance to maintain the account in GoTyme?
No. So no minimum balance. I think the other kind of exciting features we've launched with is there's a 5% savings rate through our GoSave product with no minimum balance, no lock-in on term, no limit as far as how much you put in. We offer 3 free InstaPay transfers and PaySonet transfers per week. And then we also, as I mentioned earlier, if you're an existing Go Rewards customer and you either like to buy Cebu Pacific flights or shop in Robinsons, we merge that with your account. So you can actually, the debit card becomes a Go Rewards card, and our app you can use a QR to scan the Go Rewards card. And we offer 3x rewards and points to cash if you're if you want to earn more within the GoConway ecosystem.
Well, I'm very happy that I'm a Go Rewards client, loyalist over here. But I just have a question. I mean, the benefits seem, well, almost in the local setting too good to be true with regard to the interest rate, with regard to the 3 free bank transfers. You would think, I mean, to my mind, you would think that the bigger banks would be able to offer that more because of the scale and resources that they have to extend promos. But then, to my mind, you're able to offer that already. GoTyme, these promos right now to clients to entice them to become part of the GoTyme client. Will this be something that's ongoing, or will it be something just to? I mean, that this is which is a great strategy, but to bring clients at the start.
Yeah, so I think as much as possible, we say we want to be much more feature focused and less promo. It's a feature, not a promo. If you take the interest rate, for example, it's not something that expires on June 30th, like some of the other players out there. However, it will move as the interest rate environment works with BSP. So as a reserve bank, BSP raises interest rates. Potentially, we'd raise rates further. As it reduces, we would also reduce them as well. I think maybe to answer though your question on how can we do this versus traditional, I think actually really comes down to cost structure. So if you look at the big banks, right, they have thousands of branches. They have tens of thousands of employees, and I think this is really while we have the benefit of physical infrastructure, we're actually piggybacking off of the retailers. We're not building our own branches, right? We're not employing tens of thousands, We've got 7 million customers in South Africa. We only have 300 people who work for the business. So what we do is we'll pass on that savings to the customers. We don't have to charge as much in fees. We can charge lower interest rates, and we can give higher interest rates on savings.
Got that. Now, one thing I'm also interested in to ask, to GoTyme is, I always find it very encouraging to see that out of foreign executives or consultants like yourselves who worked on this project in the past, look at the Philippines and say it's full of growth potential. And sometimes many Filipinos sometimes because I guess they might be a bit jaded, they don't really see the opportunities in their country. Help just enlighten us over here. Like, what are you seeing that you're so excited about with the economy, with the country, with fintech that is not present in the Philippines? That I mean, you were somebody obviously who had opportunities to do this somewhere else. Why say I think I'm going to build this opportunity here in the Philippines to help build a great digital bank?
Yeah, I think there's a couple elements. And by the way, I tell every kind of young aspiring entrepreneur I meet, or any young person here, any Filipino, I say, you have no idea how lucky you are. I've kind of had the privilege of working in lots of places in the world, South Africa, different Southeast Asian countries, and it's just amazing. So, and I've only been here a year, and I can't get more excited and kind of spewed about it more. I think there's a couple of things. One, it's just the demographics, large young population, really well educated, and such impressive talent we've been able to bring in and we kind of meet with, partner with. So I think, you have a growing economy, over 100 million people. The second thing, in particular in the financial services industry, is there's so much to be, there's so much pent up demand for these services I talked about earlier that are missing, right? I'll give an antidote. Like in South Africa, one of the top 5 banks, it's a big unsecured consumer credit provider, so kind of credit cards, term loans. So South Africa, for context, population half the size of the Philippines. The entire lending book of this one bank in South Africa is larger than all of the banks put together here.
Wow.
So that just shows how actually underserved the market is here when it comes to credit, insurance, investments. So I think for anyone aspiring to be involved in really transformational change in the financial services industry, I cannot think of a better country in the world for it.
Well, thanks so much. It's truly it's sometimes nice to get a different perspective and see just how big the opportunity is here in the country, especially in the banking and financial inclusion. Speaking of which, if you look at your background, you were actually an American expat. You worked in I guess you worked in South Africa. You worked for Deloitte Consulting. How did this opportunity come across to you? I mean, where did you all of a sudden say, hey, this is interesting, and I think we can do it in the Philippines? Oh, you were telling us a bit more about South Africa. Tell us how what were the series of fortunate incidents that led you to actually say, let's bring that business model here to the country?
Yeah, there was quite a bit of personal serendipity or fortune just to even get to South Africa. I was actually on a project in Tanzania, flying back to the US. I had a long layover in Dubai, and I kind of been enamored and a little bit obsessed with this whole mobile banking thing. This is back in 2011. And then there was a long layover. I got to go to a conference on mobile money. I asked a question, random question to the speaker about, I can't remember. Someone came and found me and I said I was from Deloitte when I asked the question. Someone came and found me during lunch and said, did you know that Deloitte is building a digital bank for a big telco in South Africa? And I had no idea. I kind of was able to then to connect the dots, hustled my way onto that consulting project. And then a few months later, I thought I was going to be in South Africa for 3 to 6 months on a consulting project. There was an independence issue with Deloitte and the partner bank, and Deloitte couldn't continue the project. So then myself and a bunch of other, all South Africans, I was kind of a token American, spun off to start Time. And then, the first, 5 or 6 years we were B2B, and we kind of were able then in 2018 to get our own banking license. We launched. But actually in that journey, we were helping, strange enough, Commonwealth Bank of Australia bring our product and our thinking to Indonesia. And when we kind of started doing that, we then just started to more research the region. And what we realized was that number one, we always wanted to go out of South Africa. But we thought originally, let's go up Africa. It's a natural progression. If you're South Africa, you go up, Nigeria, Mozambique, Tanzania.
Hmm.
But when we kind of got a little glimpse of Southeast Asia, we realized that the demographics, large, young populations, more higher digital adoption, but lower financial services adoption. It was like perfect. So then we just started keeping our eye on the markets. And when the Philippines announced in 2020 they were going to offer new licenses, we then started to look for a retailer to partner with, because that's our model. We have this model where we need to find a local retailer. And it was, again, the biggest piece of serendipity was that, Lance Conway and the family, the group were looking for, they also wanted to build a digital bank, and they were looking for someone who did it before. And we kind of went to them, well, we need a retailer. you're basically one of the top partner we could possibly get. And 3 months later, we had the deal. And we actually, the crazy part was we did this whole thing during the pandemic, didn't even meet each other. But then, finally got to move here last year in April once the COVID lifted.
Wow. So you mean the whole time that GoTyme was running, you were actually abroad?
Well, when we was being built. So we launched in October, so 6 months ago. But the team from Time only physically got here in April. So we actually did the entire joint venture deal, applied for a bank license, and built 90% of the bank all remotely. Hired people, interviewed. It was quite crazy. So kind of like, for example, my co-CEO, Abit Tinio, Filipino, and Jojo and Lance, we only got to meet each other kind of over a year into the project.
I'm curious. There have been many differing results of people talking about their experiences in the pandemic of building businesses. Either it really blew up their businesses in a good way, or blew up their businesses in a not so good way. How exactly did you see the pandemic help with GoTyme? Did it expedite the putting together of the company? Did it help you easily scale because there was a higher level of digital adoption for things like digital banking? What was the experience that you guys had in the pandemic? I'm very curious to find out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think for us, because we were still build phase, build and apply for a license, obviously didn't have a direct market impact. We didn't have customers yet. However, I think it likely helped. It sped up the deal making and the excitement around the concept of launching a new bank. I would imagine, not to put words in their mouth, but in particular to think about on the GoConway side, the local partner, they would have been witnessing GCash just exploding, right? And the proliferation of e-wallets, and the story better than me. I wasn't here, but the digital adoption just went from kind of 20 to 100 overnight. So I think we had because we didn't have customers, we were pre-launch. We kind of had a bit of a unique challenge of building an entire team from scratch, trying to build a culture, recruiting, all through Zoom and Teams. Actually, surprisingly, it's incredible. I think once you kind of everyone got used to being online and everyone's online, it's actually nothing can replace physical kind of human experience, but it was actually surprisingly smooth.
And yourself, what I find interesting as well, from your journey in South Africa, where you have discovered this opportunity, you went from being a consultant jumping into the shoes of a banker. For me, that's sort of like you were the consultant, but you became the quote unquote entrepreneur banker because you were heading Time over there in South Africa. How was that transition for you? Because usually not many people, that's a similar jump that many people make here as well, right? When they go from I'm working corporate I moved to entrepreneurial work. I mean, it's sort of like an analogy to what you did. Was it difficult for you to do that one when you made the transition?
I would say it was more exciting than anything, right? I was kind of in the late 20s. I'd always, I guess from my early years, my dad and mom kind of ran a family business. They're home builders, renovators. So I think kind of deep in me, I kind of always, and you always look up to your dad and your parents, always kind of, I think what was ingrained in me is that entrepreneurship and having control of your own destiny is something I aspired to. I think, if I came home and if I wanted to like impress my dad and I came home and said, I've climbed the corporate ladder to this step, it's not going to impress him. So maybe that was kind of part of it. So I kind of always, I always kind of had this pull towards entrepreneurship. The other dynamic was being a consultant, even though I would say it's one of the best ways to start your career because you get exposed to lots of industries. You're forced to learn things very quickly, put under pressure. It lacked that satisfaction of owning something and doing something, right? You're kind of making recommendations, doing small projects. So I think for the most part, it was very, very exciting. I think obviously it had its dark days, tough moments when you're nervous. Is the business going to survive? And we had, over the last 11 years, we had many ups and downs. We had a big down early COVID because there's so much uncertainty. But I mean, overall, it's been amazing.
Let's talk a bit more about the challenges, especially in putting this bank up. I know that there are two sets of challenges to my mind. Working in South Africa in digital banking and saying of course, it looks like it's the conditions are right, theoretically things are right, but were there points that you said, I want to, the stress is too much, I want to give up, or the situation isn't working for you? That's the first part of your story. But then also here in the Philippines, I mean, there's a unique set of idiosyncratic challenges because you can't translate all the things that you use to solve problems in South Africa don't easily translate to solving the same. Try to solve it here, it's not exactly the same way. Maybe you can share with us a bit more of those, the challenges, because many people think, all being an entrepreneur like yourself is always up, up, up. But there are some challenges which you go through. How did you get through them? Let's talk about your South African experience.
Yeah, I think in the South Africa side, kind of a very different set of challenges than we face now. Is more of that earlier stage startup, right? So we had this concept that had not been proven anywhere, that we can build a hybrid model and people will like to sign up for banks in a supermarket. It kind of had this, the first 6 months it was working and like lots of people were signing up. So there's kind of that euphoric phase where it's a honeymoon phase, I think, of any business when you're building it, launch it. And then for us, where it became very tough, then you kind of hit the realization is, okay, our activity levels, is adoption fast enough? How's the revenue coming? That kind of natural kind of second phase of the business where stuff naturally gets tough was compounded, was made worse because that's when COVID hit. So literally plan A was, we're going to launch this business, go for 6 months, raise capital, and then accelerate. And that was our promise also to the shareholders that were backing us. And they didn't have plans to carry us, right, as we're losing money by themselves. But then when COVID broke out and the capital markets, really hard to raise money, everyone had so much uncertainty, was kind of at the exact point where we were scaling but losing quite a bit of money. We hadn't kind of started a clear trajectory towards profitability. So that was like the most really difficult. But I think, you get through it because of the people around you. Kind of the team that, we had, even though we were launching a bank for the first time, our first brand, the core team had been together already for 5 years. And in those kind of darkest, there's even times, very early days, where we were even, looking for someone to buy us, do a merger, et cetera. It was kind of really tough few months before everything settled. But even though those were tough, you look back at those toughest times with the fondest memories. It's kind of like that, when you're suffering together, and really stressful, you find humility in it, especially looking back on it.
I'm glad to hear that. Hopefully, you can just laugh about whatever you went through in the toughest of times. Now, talking about, okay, we went through the tough time. But then, in business, there's often also a time when you finally say, "Hey, this is going to work," and yes, I know it's going to work. What was that like? Sort of like that point for you in when GoTyme was set up here in the Philippines, where you're saying, "Yes, I felt that yes, it's going to get where we wanted to take it." Where was that point for you?
Well, because you mentioned earlier that this thing might not translate, right? I think this was our biggest worry. I mean, I think we did everything we could. For example, there's only 5 individuals who are in GoTyme who are from Time Group. We use their product and technology centrally. There's only 5 of us, so we made sure we hired a lot more people who are Filipino. So of the 150 of us, only 5 are from Time, because there are so many market nuances. So we hired people from Gcash, PayMaya, CIMB, ING, etc. To try to minimize that chance of it not translating. But our big worry was this kiosk strategy. Will people sign up for bank accounts in the Philippines in a mall or a supermarket like they have in South Africa? Luckily, so that was obviously the big question that everyone had. Our investors, the team internally. I think we were bullish because Filipinos love going to the mall. They're very social. This should work. Luckily, it only took like 2 weeks. So in South Africa, we average like 6 account signups per day per kiosk across the fleet. Kind of in the first month in the Philippines, we were averaging like 30, and there was lines of people signing up in Robinsons. And
Wow.
So once I saw that, I think me and the team were like, okay, we have lots of work to do, lots of mountains to climb, but like we're on the right track.
Got that. Got that. Now that we're at this point, give us a better understanding now. What GoTyme is right now, and where you see GoTyme plan to go in the next 2 to 3 years here in building the financial ecosystem. I know that, of course, competition is good, but sometimes you like we were talking earlier on. There's 2 ways to look at competition. It's a growing market where financial inclusion here in the Philippines, it's got a long way to go. So the more digital banks, the better. But at the same time, the bank still needs to stand out. There still needs to be a value added proposition that GoTyme does better. I mean, and I'm sure that you've picked up something from your experience in South Africa that you're able to bring here as well. So let's talk first about where you plan to take things right now after you've seen that the model has been successful.
Yeah, I think at a high level, what we set out to do, we talked about the big challenge being here, it underserved at a massive scale, right? So we believe in order to actually solve that pain point, we need to get massive scale. So our vision and what we're set out to do is to become one of the biggest banks in the country. And I remember one time I was sharing this with a team, and someone grabbed me after, and they're like, isn't that quite arrogant of us to make these statements? And I said, yeah, but this is why BSP gave us a license. The Philippines doesn't have a 2 or 5 million financially excluded problem. It's a 50 million, 60 million person problem. So I think where we're going is we want to compete with the big guys when it comes to scale, the big brands. So we don't see ourselves as a niche digital play. We see ourselves as one of the biggest banks in the country over the next few years. The second thing so that's kind of where we want to go. Are you still with me, RJ? You've frozen.
Sorry about that. Now I'm back. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Dave?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. And the last point we were just talking about was that what are you seeing? Where do you see yourself taking GoTyme over here to become the biggest bank? And it's not really arrogant for you to think about it, but it's sort of like this is a vision that we have because of financial inclusion.
Mhm. Yeah. And so then if maybe I transition to the second part of your question, like, how do we differentiate? I think as we were talking about earlier, I think the politically correct answer is if we're sitting on a panel with Greg from Tonic, Manish from Uno, is that there's plenty of space for all of us, right? And that actually is not just the politically correct statement, because the scale of the problem, right? I do think there's going to be 2 or 3 massive new banks created in the next 5 to 10 years. But as far as, how we're going to win, how do we do it differently? There's kind of 3 elements to it. I think on product pricing, we have to be really good. That speaks to the 5% interest, the 3 free sends. It speaks to the rewards proposition. And over time, we're going to get into innovative and low cost credit opportunities, really exciting investment opportunities, insurance. So I think that's one element of it where we have to differentiate. The second one, I would say by far the biggest one, and maybe to answer, what is GoTyme going to be famous for? We're going to be famous for customer experience and service. Now I know that might seem a little bit boring compared to like a sexy product, etc. But actually, at the heart of banking, it's people's money. So I think what people really want is they want the product to work every time. If there's an issue, they want to be able to help. And they want that to happen conveniently. And this is where, in particular, our human touch is going to come through, what we call our Go Human promise. So this is the ability to conveniently open our account, have free cash and cash out in any Robinsons with mall and retail hours, not banking branch hours, right? So on the weekends, late at night, if you work and you get off late, especially think about this BPO world in the Philippines, you get out, the branches aren't open. You can't do things, you can't do deposits, etc. So the big in that service and experience is a big piece around convenience and access. The second one is around just creating a next level, beautiful banking experience. So, and it was funny, I was having a drink on Friday with one of my friends who's in the fintech industry here, he's Filipino. And he said, I love your app, Nate, but are you sure this isn't like too nice for the Philippines? And I just had like the biggest smile. I'm like, what kind of question is that? Like, that is, first of all, that is exactly what we're going for. Like, our view is, we've got these Revoluts and N26s of the world that create a beautiful banking experience. It works every time. It's seamless in Germany, the UK. It's like, of course, it's not too nice. Like that, we're gonna build a Filipino bank that is world class. And the last way, or most importantly, where we deliver on this promise of customer experience is that human touch, right? So if something goes wrong, not only can you chat with us in the app or message us on social media, you can go find that smiling ambassador who can give you help. We kind of have a promise right now that we'll pick up the phone in under 2 minutes if you call us. I think right now we're averaging, like, as of 2 days ago, 1 minute 47 seconds. So it's these type of things. Like, really, we believe that we want to be famous for that experience in customer service.
And at the same time, what I like over here is that you're seeing a lot of different opportunities emerging on how you can improve your services. If you look at the bigger picture also, being in the fintech world, I'm sure that you're also seeing a lot of other opportunities emerge that obviously that might not be under the bank's purview, or there are other opportunities you're seeing that emerging for other fintech entrepreneurs. Can you share with us, if you don't mind, what are these opportunities you're seeing emerging where entrepreneurs can still participate here in the country, especially given your perspective of how digital banking is growing?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking, and we're kind of actively partnering and looking for more of these partners. I mean, For example, you know, we have it's not just in the financial services there's gaps. It's in payroll, and so I would say almost every vertical, financial or non-financial, has a lot of room for growth in digitization. So we're kind of providing fully online banking, and we'll get into investments and insurance over time. So I think there's a massive opportunity in insurance. There's a big opportunity in something as simple as being able to pay your employees online. So there's other things, for example, being a very easily set up an e-commerce site, or be able to communicate with your customers. So I think we're actually very actively on the lookout, if anyone's watching, for these other fintech or just digital businesses who can plug into us as a digital bank.
Got that. And as I look at your background, it's consultant to sort of banker, entrepreneur, and I'm sure that you've gained a lot of insights along the way. Do you mind sharing maybe a couple of your management insights or management hacks with people also aspiring to be entrepreneurs like you? Some of them are working corporate, some of them are coming from purely entrepreneurial background. What have you learned over the years that you think might be able to help other people as well? And we're here live right now together with our friend Nate Clarke of GoTyme. He's the founder and CEO of GoTyme. Check it out here right now. That's www.gotyme.com.ph. Again, let's flash it on the screen right now. That's gotyme.com.ph. And also, I want to put out this word, as we do undergo technical difficulties here, but let me take this opportunity here right now to ask the people who are listening that if you have some specific entrepreneurs in mind that you would like me to interview, please do let me know. All you have to do is you can go to the RJ Ledesma Podcast, send a message over there so we can get in touch with those people. We would love to have them here on the show. At the same time, I'd like to encourage everybody, if you're listening here right now to the program, to pick up a copy of my online digital publication, The Business Manual. On the cover there, we have right now Carlos Barrera. He is the head of Lazada Philippines. Really great article on how they're using Lazada to help scale small online businesses. And they're teaching you the different techniques on how to scale it. So I suggest for all of you who are doing online businesses, trying to figure out the strategies on how to grow the business, take a look at the article of Carlos Barrera. I interviewed him for the Business Manual. Very interesting discussion. I'm sure you will learn a lot from it. And again, just visit the Business Manual online. And at the same time, check out my show on TV. It's called One News on Bright Ideas. Bright Ideas. I talk to all the different startups here in the Philippines to get a better idea of how they put together the startup, what pain points they were trying to address, and how they're trying to grow their businesses. In the meantime, we are awaiting the return over here of our good friend Nate Clarke, again, the founder and CEO of GoTyme. And again, we invite all of you, if you have the time, to check out gotyme.com online. Try to download an account. Here, you can either go to the Google Store or the Apple Store and check them out. That you just type in GoTyme, GOTYME, over there for Apple or Google. You can also do it live. You can go to their actual locations, and you can find. You can actually go to their locations in any Robinsons Mall. Meet up with a GoTyme ambassador. They will assist you in putting up, of course, your site there in GoTyme. And for those listening to us here right now on Facebook Live, we apologize for the technical difficulties, but we want you to know that you can get this full interview this time online, and you can get that on our Google and Apple podcast. I know that I might be too clear here right now. Together with Nate, we apologize for this difficulty. But given that one, thanks again for listening to the RJ Ledesma Podcast. We'll see you in the next podcast. Thanks, guys. Take care. Thank you so much.